Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name is Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. Today I'm doing a quick review of the last week in my non-fiction November month. So I'm going to start with the two books that I mentioned last time, which I have finished now. I completely read another book and I've started two more. So the ones which I mentioned last time I'm only going to go over briefly because I talked about them in the last episode I did. I'm just going to wrap them up now. So the first one is Sorrow Mountain by Annie Patchen and Adelaide Donnelly, which I've mentioned a few times now. Annie Patchen is a Tibetan nun. This story follows her from childhood up to present day, when it was written in 2002, I believe. And it talks about how she grew up in Tibet, and her father was the chief of her village, and Tibet was invaded by China in the 1950s, and there was a huge massacre of Tibetan people, and it was completely terrible. And she had to flee to the hills, to the mountains. Her father died, so she was left in charge, and she had to she tried to escape capture, but she was captured, and she then spent 21 years being tortured in a Chinese prison. So it's pretty grim reading, but I think it's about such an important time of history which isn't widely taught in schools as far as I can remember when I was at school. It's makes stories really come to life when it's a personal account of this time, and her strength is incredible. Her faith, her Buddhist faith, is what gets her through, and there's quite a lot about Buddhism in here and little snippets which I found really interesting. And it's the synopsis and the back of the book pretty much gives the whole thing in terms of what happens. But she then is when she's freed, she goes to live in India, and she's now passed away, but this is a great memoir if you want to learn about that period of time in history and what a strong and wonderful person that she is. The second book that I finished, which I also started talking about last time, is this one. So I Call Myself a Feminist, 25 Essays by Women Under 30. I talked quite a lot about it last time, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but I finished it now, and I really enjoyed many of the essays in here. I gained a lot of things to think about from reading this book, and I just wanted to leave with a couple of quotes from the book, because in between the essays there were small quotes from different celebrities, so I've picked out a few which I liked, so I just wanted to tell you those. The first one is a quote from Amy Poehler from her book Yes Please. It's called Yes Please because it is the constant struggle and often the right answer. Can we figure out what we want? Ask for it and stop talking. Yes please. Is being vulnerable a power position? Yes please. Am I allowed to take up space? Yes please. Would you like to be left alone? Yes please. I really love that, especially can we figure out what we want, ask for it and stop talking. How rubbish can we be at doing that? I know I certainly can. So that one has stayed with me quite a bit. And the also being vulnerable as a power position and liking to be left alone. We've all been there when we've wanted to be left alone and somebody won't stop persisting. The second one is Margaret Atwood quote. It says, "Why do men feel threatened by women?" I asked a male friend of mine. "They are afraid women will laugh at them," he said, "undercut their worldview." Then I asked some women students, "Why do women feel threatened by men?" "They are afraid of being killed," they said. I think that was so powerful to me, because I think that I think there should be equality in the way that women talk about men and the way that men talk about women, because I think in society we often think that it's offensive if men make comments about a woman and her appearance, and then we can definitely be guilty as women of making the same comments about men. The only thing I can say, because sometimes they come across in a different way, like when women, and I'm not defending this because we should be talking from a position of equality, when women tend to get together and talk about men in terms of, like, if we're watching a film, and like I know I do this, if I watch a Tom Hardy film for instance, we tend to do it in kind of like a light-hearted, like like light-hearted, kind of silly way. And I think sometimes when men do it about women, it can be like that, or sometimes it can be quite predatory and insulting. And I think that this quote almost sums that up, because deep down, I think, I don't know, I can't speak for all women obviously, but we are conscious of men's as a threat to us. Like, for instance, I wouldn't walk from the cinema back to the car on my own. I'd always go with my friends, because I personally, again, I don't want to speak for everybody, get scared about other men when I'm out on my own, especially at night time. So I do think that we have different positions and how we view these things because of the level of threat. I don't really think that in general women pose a threat to men, whereas in the other way around, I do think that is true. I'm not saying that all men are like that by any means. Please don't think that I'm anti-men. I'm really not. But I think that we have a fear for our safety, which don't think that men have the same fear in terms of other women. So that was the second one. And then the last one is by Cornelia Otis Skinner, and it just says, women's virtue is man's greatest invention. How powerful is that? How many things have we been told that we shouldn't do that because it will make us look this way, and it will make us look, it will damage our reputation, or all that kind of crap that women are told, especially in certain parts of the world. All is a power ploy by men. So that was powerful. So that was that one. And then go on to the book that I finished. So I finished This Is Gonna Hurt by Adam Kay. So I am hoping that I'm still budgie reading this with Simon from Savage Reads. I know that he wasn't ready to start it when I started it, but I still really want to discuss it. So I'm sure most people have heard of this book, but Adam Kay was a junior doctor in obstetrics and gynecology, and he left medicine a number of years ago. This is his diary entries from when he first qualified as a doctor through to when he quit. And he is an extremely funny person. So these are really serious issues, which he has made informative but funny. So books never really make me laugh out loud. I laughed out loud pretty much on every single page of this book. It's so funny, but also so important in what it says. It will make light of things which really, for the doctor, are not funny at the time, but how he sold it with such a humour. I guess this is the way that he coped with everything. There were also some bits in this which are incredibly sad and incredibly hard to read, and by no means did he try and make those bits funny, but it makes those bits stand out even more because of the tone of the rest of the book. I could relate to this so much because I obviously was a junior doctor. I'm not anymore. But I went through a lot of the things that he's gone through in this book, and the same kind of hilarities, the same frustrations, the same loss of any kind of social life. And I don't know whether I enjoyed it even more because I've lived that experience and I could so relate to everything he was saying. Or I'd really be interested for people who have no inside knowledge of the NHS, how they viewed this book compared to me. So I'm gonna just actually flick to a random page and talk about something in this, and then I'm gonna make a separate video just about this book and another book I read about the inner lives of doctors, comparing the two and talking a little bit more about the issues which I think they raise. So I'm gonna make that video after I've recorded this one. I'm just gonna open this at a random page and you'll see how funny it is. Okay, so I've got two really short ones here. The first one is Tuesday the 31st of October. In the labour ward dressing rooms after a long shift. I'm leaving at 10 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. thanks to a major obstetric hemorrhage ending up back in theatre. I'm meant to be going to a Halloween party, but now I don't have time to go home and pick up my costume. However, I'm currently dressed in scrubs and splattered head to toe in blood. Would it be so wrong? And then the next one, Saturday the 4th of November. Got bleeped to see a postnatal patient at 1 a.m. The theatre nurse relays to the bleeping midwife that I'm in the middle of a caesarean. I get bleeped again at 1:15 a.m, still doing the caesarean, and 1:30 a.m, writing up my operation notes. Eventually, I head off to review the patient. What's the big emergency? She's going home in the morning and wants to have her passport application countersigned by a doctor while she's still in here. that is exactly the kind of thing that happens in the middle of the night when you get bleeped for an emergency, which turns out to be something absolutely pathetic and you don't know whether to laugh or cry. So yeah, I'm gonna talk exactly just about this book and one other similar book in the next part. And then on to the 2 books that I have started. This is much longer than I thought it would be. I thought this would be 5 minutes, so sorry, this is going on a little bit now. Next, The Multi-Hyphen Method by Emma Gannon. This is a book about careers. Emma is a wonderful human being. I love her podcast called Control Alt Delete, and she is talking in this about how to become a multi-hyphenate, i.e. having a career which evolves and involves multiple different parts to it, multiple income streams, learning and moving with the times, changing your skill set, and doing what you love on a schedule which works for you. This, I'm hoping, is going to help me on my journey to doing this, and I'm enjoying it. I've only just started it yesterday. I'm only 25 pages in. So far, so good. And then I'm a little bit further through this one. Guy Martin, Worms to Catch. So as I mentioned before, Guy Martin is a truck mechanic from Lincolnshire in England. He is a real character. He is a very strong person. He is amazing in the way that he works so hard. He has got such a high pain threshold. He's quite amazing. I think all motorcyclists seem to have this incredible strength. And he races motorbikes. He does he does cycling competitions as well, and he also does lots of daring events. He's currently in this book setting a world record on a wall of death, and it's just about his sort of day-to-day life, his challenges, his TV work that he's doing. He writes exactly the way he talks, so if you're a fan of his TV programs, you'll definitely like the books, and this is his 3rd book. So far so good with this one as well. So that was my wrap up for week 2. Let me know how you're doing with your non-fiction November, or if you'd like to read any of the books that I've talked about, and I will speak to you next week with a wrap up from week 3. Bye.